Hey there, everybody. We are back with another profile for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about Red Hybrid. Red Hybrid's a deck that's been around for a while, but really got some support in BT12 that put it back on the radar. I think it is a very strong deck, a very quick and aggressive deck, and it is a deck that I feel like is going to do very well in the upcoming Ultimate Cup format. We've already seen it top Carta Magica's Ultimate Cup, and I think with the next couple Ultimate Cups that we have later on this month, we're going to be seeing a lot of Red Hybrid. This is my rendition of it. I'm open to any feedback, any sort of suggestions you guys may have for this deck, but in my preliminary testing, this is what I felt has worked for me. The whole point of Red Hybrid is to really just recur your pieces. You want to swing into security as quickly and as aggressively as possible. And yeah, I mean, I think it plays very well into some of these bigger stack deck that, take some time to build. So without further ado, let's get into it. For our eggs, we're going to be running 4 of the BT11 Yokomon. Yokomon, like I said, with Red Hybrid being a deck that really wants to just crash into security as quickly as possible, you don't really care if your pieces get deleted upon checking. So Yokomon is a pretty good inheritable for it. Most of the times too, you're not building a stack from raising, you're utilizing your tamers, so you're really most of the times digivolving like a Flamemon on top of it, and they're going to swing into security. They're more likely than not going to die, so Yoko gives you that draw power off of that. For the rookies, we're going to start off with 4 of the BT7 Flamemon. Pretty good searcher. On play, you look at top 4, you can pick up a hybrid or a Takuya in name from those 4 hits. Unfortunately, you can only pick one. So, if you happen to hit a Takuya and a hybrid, you have to kind of pick one or the other, unfortunately. But still a good piece for cycling. Inheritable can come up, on deletion, you get to play a Takuya. That's if you, say, warp with your Takuya or you have to build a stack. Then, sometimes that inheritable can come into play. But most of the times, you're really just utilizing it for the search and cycle. Next rookie we're running is 4 of the BT12 Flamemon. This Flamemon is, again, an on-play cycler. You play it, you trash 1 card with hybrid in traits, or a Digimon with hybrid in traits, and then you get to draw 2. So pretty good early game where you kind of want to set up your trash and get some hybrids going in there. And then you also get to draw 2 off of it. Inheritable is when this Digimon has hybrid or 10 warriors in traits against plus 2k DP. Again, really won't come up unless you're warping from your Takuya into your top end, or if you have to build a stack and you're desperate, that can come up. But most of the times, again, cycle. Rookies are all about cycling in this deck. Another level 3 we're playing is the BT4 Flamemon. I think the best searcher, pure searcher for this deck, you look at your top 3, you pick up a tamer, and then you pick up a hybrid. So lets you pick up potentially 2 if you see 2 hits. So I think, again, this is your ideal searcher, but all of these cards allow you to cycle through your deck very, very quickly. And then we're going to round out our rookies with 2 Solarmon from the Jesmon starter deck. The reason I'm running Solarmon is that particularly for Ultimate Cup, you're going to be seeing a lot of decks like Belphamon. You're going to be seeing a lot of Bloom Quartz. You really want to be able to stop those decks from playing their on deletion effects. Blue Flare also can proc with their Gaussmons and whatnot, so you want to be able to just make that a little bit less efficient for your opponent. Let's face it, a lot of these floodgates are easily bounced, popped, deleted, whatever, right? But they have to make that decision and commit to it. So I think running 2 of Solarmon's not a bad tech choice, just again to potentially slow down your opponents a little bit more. Moving on to our hybrid package, we're running 4 of the Burning Greymon from BT7. It's a 2 to Evo off of a Takuya. If there's a hybrid or tamer in its Digivolution sources, you pop a 4K Digimon. So you're going to be popping almost all of the rookies that are floodgates. You're going to be popping some level 4s as well. So I think a pretty good card to just kind of get some board control with. So I run that at a 4 of. You run 4 of the Agunimon from BT12. Agunimon digivolves for 1 from a Burning Greymon, so you can stack your hybrids on top of each other for search. You're kind of building a big threatening stack. Also lets you digivolve off of a Takuya for 2 cost. And then on deletion, you can play a Flamemon suspended without paying the play cost. So again, not bad for some early play chips and then cycling, right? If you give it to Kuya, you digivolve into a Goonie, you swing. If a Goonie does end up dying, then you can play out a Flamemon. All of these Flamemons have cycle capability one way or the other, so it helps you just get your pieces going and get your deck just cycled through as you look for your pieces. Inheritable is on deletion. You may play 1 Takuya from your hand without paying the memory cost. So very good when paired with this card over here, which is BT12 Burning Greymon. BT12 Burning Greymon again digivolves for 1 on top of a Gunimon, and then allows you to digivolve for 2 on top of a Takuya. When digivolving, this gains plus 2 KDP for the turn, and then its inheritable also gives it an additional plus 2 DKDP if it's a hybrid or 10 warriors in trait. So if you can imagine, you can have your Takuya go into an Agunimon, then go into a Burning Greymon for 1. You can swing. Either Takuya gives you at least plus 2 KDP. So this guy's swinging for 10k, potentially 2 checks, but most of the times, you can finagle it one way or the other. We'll talk about Takuyas later. But 10k, if they choose to swing over it next turn, you can play out another Takuya from hand, right? Like there's a lot of ways that you can recur your tamers if you have them. So I think the combo here is pretty nice. You run 12 hybrids. I think that's a mandatory ratio there. I wouldn't run any less. I think if you run any less, you run the risk of just not seeing your win con, which are these guys right here. Level 5s, we're only going to be running 4 of the BT7 Aldemon. This card is pretty darn good for the inherit ADP that it gives your stack. So during your turn, when this Digimon is hybrid or 10 warriors in traits, doesn't activate any security effects or option cards it checks. So basically just shuts down your opponent's security, which can be pretty darn good. When digivolving, if you have a hybrid or tamer in the Digivolution cards, you can gain plus 4 KDP, which really procs a lot of your Takuya effects. So pretty good for what it wants to do. You're only running 4 because I feel like a lot of times, like, you don't really need to go into your top end to really win with Red Hybrid. You can get a lot of what you want to do off of your level 4s. I think Aldemon is a nice, just like mid-early game where you can kind of make sure that it's going to live the next turn. You swing potentially for 2 checks, and then they kind of have to deal with it next turn. Otherwise, you're going to be swinging again, potentially again for like 10k 2 checks. So I think Aldemon is there more for like the early mid-game hybrid push, but then late game, you're really able to close out a lot of your rounds with just your level 4s. So that's why I'm not too stressed in running like 5 or 6 level 5s. I think 4 is plenty. To start our level 6s, we're going to be running just 1 Emperor Greymon from BT7. When digivolving, this card has Blitz, and during your turn, when this Digimon is blocked, or your opponent attempts to block it, you can gain 1 memory for each Digivolution source with hybrid and traits. So most of the time, I will try to warp into this guy because Blitz can be huge, right? Like if you're able to get to that last check and then do an Emperor Grey play for Blitz, swing for game, that can be pretty darn good. But, I think running it at a 1-of for that win con is why you do it. I think the blocking component sometimes can come up, but I don't think it will most of the time. And like I said, you really don't go into your level 6s as a top end in the stack. You're really most of the times warping into it. But if you do go into it, I think I usually like to go into this guy right here, which is BT12 Emperor Greymon. It has inherent security check +1. When digivolving, you basically, if you have a tamer in its source, or hybrid in source, you can delete something with a DP less than or equal to this card. So if you can imagine, right, like if you're building this guy's DP up with your Takuya effects, your Burning Gray effects, you're able to get to as high as like 15, 16k potentially. That pops a lot, if not most cards in the meta right now. And it's an easy way to just clear a big stack that doesn't have protection. So I like it for that effect. On deletion, you can play out a Takuya, which is also not bad at all. So if they swing over this guy, yes, they get rid of that big body, but you can go out and just play a Takuya, which again just helps you cycle your plays on and on and on. So I run this at a 4 of. Again, most of the times for your level 6s, I think you tend to warp into them, but it's also just sometimes not a bad play to just go straight into it. Now moving on to the tamers, we're going to be running 4 of the BT7 Takuya. This is a 3 cost to play. Your hybrids can digivolve for 2 on top of it. Once per turn during your main phase, you can take 5 cards with hybrid in their traits from your trash. Note that it's only from trash, not from your hand, which is what I believe Koji lets you do, which was the blue counterpart to it. This one, it has to be from trash, which is why this Flamon, where you get to trash one early game, is pretty helpful because that sets up your trash a little earlier. But if you take 5 from your trash, you put it under this guy as a source, you can treat this as a level 5 Digimon, and then you can digivolve into a Emperor with that effect. So you can stack your inheritables wherever way you want. As long as you've got 5, you can go into your level 6 and do what you want to do. So not bad, particularly in the late game. Inheritable is pretty good too. So this Digimon will gain plus 2k DP. And then if it has 10k DP or more, you gain check plus 1. So most of the time, your hybrid inheritables and your digivolving inheritables will like give you that DP boost to get that threshold, right? Burning Gray gives you plus 2k on Digivolution. Aldemon gives you plus 4k on Digivolution. Takuya inherently will give you plus 2k. So more often than not, you're hitting that 10k DP threshold, which will allow you to proc the security check plus 1, which then allows you to get pretty good aggro very, very early on for very cheap, efficient cost, right? So I think this Takuya is very good for what it wants to do. But I think what really propelled Red Hybrid to the next level was this Takuya here from BT12. It's a memory setter, so it sets your memory to 3. And then during your turn, if you were to say Digivolve on top of it, you get, again, plus 2k DP. And then if your Digimon has 10k DP or more, which, again, more often than not, you will have, if you check security, you gain 2 memory, which really helps extend your plays and really helps you keep your board as fresh and as ready to go as possible. One thing to note for this is that, say you check security and you check into a Digimon that's higher DP, your gaining 2 memory effect will still proc off. So you check for, say, for example, 12k, you hit into like a 15k body, that check still goes through and you gain the 2 memory. Now, if you hit an option card that, say, deletes your stack or gets rid of your stack, such as like a Chaos Degrade, a Lonky, Autostocto, and they remove it from play, now that will not proc your gain 2 memory effect because of, I think, a nuanced wording. I'm not going to try to explain it because I'm not a judge, but I'm not qualified to do that. But the official ruling is that if it checks a Digimon in security and it dies due to just DP difference, the memory will go off. If it checks an option card such as like a Chaos Degrade or a Lonky that removes it from play, the gain 2 memory will not proc. So just keep that in mind. And that's it for the tamers. Moving on to the options, we're running 2 Gravity Crush. I think, again, a good tech card for this deck because, again, you just extend your play so much more. Sometimes that extra 2 memory is that extra hybrid Digivolve and swing. So I think Gravity Crush is just so good in that regard. Now, caveat with this is that you lose 2 memory when your turn is passed. So if you pass them over with, say, to 3 and you use the Gravity Crush that turn, they go to 5, which can sometimes hurt you. But on that note, keep in mind, even if they have a memory setter, if you send them to 1, you lose 2 memory procs when you're at 1. So if you're able to effectively pre-choke them before their memory setter sets, then they would still go to 3. They don't go to their memory setter and then gain the 2 memory. If you set them to 1 and they have a memory setter, they will still go to 3 regardless. So they don't just automatically go to 5 because of Gravity Crush. So just keep that in mind. Don't be afraid to use it if you can finagle it so that they are set to 1 and then they just get set to 3 regardless. So that's where the Gravity Crush play can be very, very handy. We're going to run 1 Crimson Blaze. Similar to the reason why you want to run a Solarmon, I think, because it helps prevent your opponent from playing Digimon by effect. Pretty helpful in just stifling those plays, and then, a pretty good board wipe for decks like, again, Belphamon and Bloomlord that have sort of lowered to the ground Digimon who have on deletion effects to play by effect, or they want to play by effect next turn and you're anticipating that move. You can just go ahead and Crimson and stop that turn from happening. So I think a pretty good card for that. And then the last option we run is 4 of the BT4 Atomic Inferno. This really just gives the deck a whole lot of gas on top of the gas that it already has. One of your Digimon with Hybrid and Trait gains plus 3 KDP, which is going to sync very well with your Takuya effects. And then they also gain Security Check plus 1. So pretty good, because you can, as you can imagine, potentially be swinging for 2-3 checks with a lot of your hybrids. You can gain memory because if this Digimon is blocked, you gain 3 memory. So if you're forcing your opponent to block, you gain a lot of memory. Your Takuyas gain you memory. So you just gain so many ways to give yourself extended plays and aggression plays. If it's checked in security, you get a blanket plus 1 effect the next turn. So it's live after it's checked in security. Any Digimon you utilize, plus 1. You bring out a Solarmon from raising, plus 1. You bring out a Flamemon from raising, plus 1. You Digivolve onto a Takuya with a hybrid, plus 1. So this card is just so good for what it does and really helps close games out, I think, as quickly as possible, which is the overall mantra for this deck. So that is the deck. I think very, very low to the ground, very efficient, very fast, and overall just very aggressive. I think very strong, and I have a lot of fun playing it. Let me know what you guys think. The official deck profile photo will be listed in the video description down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy our content. We've had a lot of growth in the channel over the past month or so, so we appreciate everybody who's been tuning in and watching our videos, giving their thoughts and 2 cents on what we have. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy this video, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
We'll be right back.